Welcome, everyone. Let's begin our lesson for today by going over the learning goals and success criteria. First, what are we learning? We're learning how to perform mathematical operations on functions to determine their function values. How are we learning it? Through the operations on graphs of functions notes and the operations on graphs of functions assignment. When can we use this information? To plan for changes in the rates of your electricity bill to anticipate how your bill will change once a new rate takes effect. How do you know you learned it? By getting a score of 4 on the operations on graphs of functions assignment. Now let's take a look at our agenda for today. We will begin by going over the learning goals and success criteria. While we do that, you'll fill out your Get It Started. Once you've completed your Get It Started, we'll go over it together and answer any questions that you may have. Next, we'll do our weekly raffle. After that, we'll go over the operations on graphs of functions notes, and I'll give you time to complete the operations on graphs of functions assignment on Desmos. Once you've completed the assignment, we'll go over it together and answer any questions that you may have. At the end of class, we'll go back over our learning goals and success criteria while you fill out your Before You Go. Your only homework for tonight is to continue working on the reasoning with the representations of function study guide and any incomplete assignments that you may have. Let's take a look now at the operations on graphs of functions notes. The notes begin with the learning goals and success criteria. Now, what is a function? A function is a relation in which each element of the domain is paired with exactly one element of the range. So that means that for every x, there's exactly one y that matches with that x value. If there is more than one y to match up with an x, then it is not a function. So let's look at some examples here. So we have a bunch of dots here. We have tables, we have equations. We can see it in various different ways. But if we notice here, there's an x value here at x equals negative 4. And y is negative 3. There's no other y value that matches with it. Same thing with all of these. Here we have a straight line. I can pick any x value, and there's only one y that matches it. Here, again, same thing. Now, non-functions look something like this. So notice, if I pick an x value like x equals 0. So when x is 0, y is this one, it's this one, and it's this one. So there's 3 different y values that match up. That doesn't work. Same thing here. If we look here at this x value right here, there's 2 values there for y that make it true. So that doesn't work. Same thing here. If I pick x equals 0 here and here, there is 2 points. So again, not a function. Now, what is a function value? A function value is the resulting range value, so the y value, after a given domain value is selected that makes the function true. So in order to find a function value, we're going to plug in the given value for x. So whatever they tell us they want for x, the function value is the result or the output. So for instance, if I have f of 3 is equal to x minus 5. So all that means is I'm going to take 3 and plug it in, and then the result is what we call the function value. So we plug 3 in for x, and we get 3 minus 5, which is negative 2. So negative 2 is my function value. So finding a function value from a graph. So which of the following letters represents f of 4? So I'm going to go here to where x is 4, which is here. So notice I have f of 4 is represented by this dotted line p here. So it's right there. And we would say then that p represents f of 4. Now if it asks for the actual solution, then that would be c. So P is our answer in this one. Now, if it actually gives us the value, so 2, f of 2. So here we would say f of 2, which is right here, and x is actually 2. So that means that we're going to select the actual point on the graph, which in this case is D. So if you see something like this in coordinate form, you're going to find the actual point on the graph. If you see it and it's just this part, like f of 2, it's going to be the value on the dotted line, which would have been b. Now, how do we find a function value from an actual equation? So it says, what is the function value for f of 6 for the function f of x is equal to 2x minus 5? So what we're going to do is we're going to take f of x equals 2 minus 5, and we're going to plug 6 in for x. So it goes here and here. So f of 6 is equal to 2 times 6 minus 5. Well, 2 times 6 is 12. 12 minus 5 is 7. So the function value for f of 6 is 7. Now, how do we perform operations on function values? So let's say, given the table above, what is f of 2 minus g of 1? So what that means is we're going to find what f of 2 is and then subtract g of 1 from it. So f of 2, if we look at f of 2, we can see that the value here is negative 2. So when x is 2, y is negative 2. So we keep that there. And then we look at g. So g of 1, which is here, when g is 1, the g of x is negative 1/2. So we take those two values, and then we're just going to subtract them, just like it says. So f of 2 minus g of 1 is the same thing as negative 2 minus negative 0.5, which is really plus positive 0.5. And we get negative 1.5 as our solution. Let's look at another example. So this one says, what is 4 times h of negative 2? So if we take h, so when h is negative 2, y is 4. So there's our value. And then we want 4 times that. So 4h of negative 2 is the same thing as 4 times 4. And 4 times 4 is 16. Now let's look at another example. So it says, what is f plus g of 2? Well, when we write that out, f plus g of 2 is the same thing as f of 2 plus g of 2. So when we do that, we find f of 2, which is negative 2, and g of 2, which is 1. And then we're just going to add those two together. So we add up negative 2 plus 1, which is negative 1. So when we do this and you see f plus g or f minus g or anything like that, really what that's saying is we're going to take f of this value and then whatever operation's there and then g of that number. So let's see another example of this. This time we have fg of 8. Well, fg just means multiplication, so really we can break that up and it becomes f of 8 times g of 8. So f of 8 in this case is 40, and g of 8 is right here, which is 4. So now we just multiply these together and we get 40 times 4, which is 160. Now, how do we actually do this with graphs? So they want us to sketch a graph of f plus g. So what we're going to do is we need to first figure out where these values go. So what is the domain of this, first of all? Well, the domain goes from negative 2 to positive 3. Now, notice this one goes to 4, and this one goes beyond that. So why is that? Well, it's the parts that are in common. Well, over here, there's no f value, so this is undefined at that part for f, so that makes the whole thing undefined when we add it together. So it ends right here at negative 2. Just like this one ends at 3, so we would say from negative 2 to 3 is where this exists. Then to create the graph, we need to find the sums of f of x and g of x and put those points on a sketch in a general area. So it doesn't have to be exact, but we should be kind of close. For instance, we could take this point right here. So when x is negative 2, f was 0 and g was negative 2. So if we add those two together, we get negative 2. So f plus g should be here at negative 2. If we look at a point like 0, well, at 0, f was at 1 and g was at negative 2. So 1 plus negative 2 is negative 1, so it should be here. So we just kind of plot those points as we go and figure out what the graph looks like.
Let's talk now about how to sign in to Desmos to complete your work. So what we're going to do is you're going to click on the link to go to the assignment, and it should take you to a page that looks kind of like this. And right here where it says sign in with Google, we're going to click there. It's going to pop up with our email accounts. You're going to click on your school email account, and it should already have you logged in because you should have already been logged in using Google Classroom. From there, I'm just going to click start the activity, and it will take me into the assignment and allow me to begin. So that's how you will log in to Desmos using Google.
Let's take a look now at the operations on graphs of functions assignment. The assignment begins with the learning goals and success criteria. If we scroll down, there's a link here to take us to the Desmos activity. Go ahead and click on that link, and it should take us to a page that looks like this. We'll go ahead and click start the activity. The assignment begins with the learning goals and success criteria. We'll go ahead and click next. Now, on this one, it says sketch the graph of f plus g of the function. And then what is the domain? Well, we can see that the f graph cuts off at -2, so we know it can't go past -2. So we're going to put that here, -2 in parentheses. And then this one cuts off at 3, so that's as far as it can go. So 3 is our other boundary. So that's our domain. Then we're going to go ahead and add the function values using the table to go ahead and plot our points. So when x is -3, we're undefined because we can't add a 0 plus undefined. So then at -2, we add 0 plus -2, and we get -2. So when x is -2, y is -2. So we plot a point here. Then when x is -1, y is 1 plus -3, which is -2 as well. Just like that. Then at 0, we're at 1 plus -2, which is -1. Then at 1, we're at 2 plus 0, which is 2. So right there. Then at 2, we're at 4 plus 1, which is 5. Then when x is 3, we're at 5 plus 1, which is 6. So right there. So now we can just go ahead and graph this. We don't need to know exactly what it's going to look like. Something like this would be fine. Just connect the dots, just like that. Then we'll click next. We'll do it again. Now we're doing f minus g, so we'll subtract these. We'll do it again here for multiplication and then division. Then for this one, we're going to take this, and now we're not given any information, so we need to just kind of guesstimate where it's at. So if we were to add these two, what would it look like? So you're going to draw that in and state the domain. Well, we can see the domain here would be from 0, right? Because it starts here and goes to A. So this is from 0 to A. And then you're just going to sketch a graph of what you think this would look like if we added them together. Then subtracted. And then added these two functions. So you'll go ahead and sketch these graphs for that. And then when you're done with that, you'll go ahead and go back to your Google form and click next. This will take you to your before you go. Go ahead and fill out your before you go and then submit your work on Google Classroom.